one make event to go, and then we will be finished with more than a third's worth of progress in this game overall. So, all that's left for us to do is to head back to Germany and over to VW, as we have got one last car to buy. And no, just to be clear, I am not going to buy the Golf GTI, because I already have one of those, and personally because I don't care. There are other models we could use here, but because I technically own and drive a VW Polo, I might as well make this the last car that I drive in the one makes. Even though I will need to do some tuning, but we'll get to that. So we're gonna buy this thing in Flash Rot. And now that that's done, we are going to put some tuning on this thing. Because if we are going to beat that Golf GTI, then God knows we need tuning. And I'll start this off immediately by putting on the Stage 1 Turbo, as that does put me up to 180 in horses immediately. And in terms of other things I need, how much is it for the brakes? Okay, 4,600 for the brakes. And yeah, we'll put on the racing chip. I reckon the Golf GTI is going to be putting out at least 200 horsepower, so I want to make sure I am doing this the right way, which is what I aim to do. This thing might also be understeering a bit, so I'm gonna put on the sport suspension as well, just so I can get a little bit more steering out of the car. And should probably also do the racing brakes as well, since I may need those. And I think the last thing I'll do to this thing, I think I'll just change the oil, so then that should put me over 200 in terms of horsepower. That'll be the last thing I end up doing, officially. It's only about, what, 12 to 15 seconds of my time when it comes to changing the oil, so I'm not really wasting much time by doing this. Okay, hopefully now my car should be ready for that Golf GTI. Pretty much done all the tuning I need to do, so hopefully it's enough. As we will now get on with it. GTI Cup. Pretty much the whole Volkswagen GTI family is in this, or eligible for this I should say, as we're doing 2 laps of Hong Kong, 3 laps of Tsukuba, 2 laps of Opera Paris, 2 laps of midfield reverse, and then to finish off 2 laps of Deep Forest reverse. This is the Hot Hatch, a battle between VWs with the glorious emblem attached. And let's now get on with this before my voice starts to die again. And so for this we've got one first generation Golf GTI, one Mark IV GTI, one Mark V GTI, one Polo GTI, and one Lupo GTI. I think you can see what's happening here. But hopefully I have everything I need in order to compete with the Golf GTI, considering I did gain 70 horsepower from just putting on the Stage 1 turbo alone. So hopefully we've got enough to win. And let's see how we go. And only 8 points if we win, so I think it's fair to say with the tuning I've done to this thing, I might have made this a little too easy, potentially, as I already passed my fellow Polo. And immediately run into the back of the first gen Golf. Okay. I need to be careful with this thing, because I am currently going into the walls a lot. But I did at least manage to put on a decent upgrade with the sports suspension, just so I had a little bit more control. And so far the Gen 5 Golf GTI has not done much about the Gen 4 Golf GTI. And it doesn't look like that pace is really showing through at the moment, as I do manage now to work my way to the front of the field and almost overshooting into the wall, but thankfully avoiding it, even though I could not avoid the second one. But I am managing to at least stay ahead of the Mark V Golf GTI. And it looks as though we should be fine, from what I can see. I'm up front by 2 seconds. I just wanted to use the Polo simply because, well, I technically own and drive a Volkswagen Polo. It's a pretty good car to own, in my opinion. Even though my one is technically newer than this model of Polo. Plus the other thing I should tell you is my Polo was blue. And the year my Polo came out was 2009. So it was pretty much 10 years old when we first got it. But yeah, I think a Polo is definitely a good car to have if you're looking for decency and styling. At least with the older models anyway. And I think I'm now well clear of the Gen 5 Golf GTI. And officially, that is it for race 1. As I wind up winning in the end by 3.7 seconds. and the other Polo GTI finishes last. Meanwhile, the Lupo does do a pretty good job of holding on to third. I was thinking to myself for sure he was not going to hold on to that spot, but he actually did. Which is good for him. And 4 of us managed to finish with the Mark IV GTI finishing 4th. And pretty much the same field as what we had before, except for saying this time the Gen 5 Golf GTI is on the front row, basically. But you know what? I think because we're at Suzuka, I don't really think I need to remove the tuning. I'm just gonna keep everything as it is, simply because it'll make me feel safer that way. And also because it's how I know I have a better shot of sweeping it. Or at the very least trying to. Because that's what I basically set out to do. And getting some understeer off the corner, which is why the tyres spun. And making a little contact there with the Lupo, but able to at least keep all 4 wheels on the road. And my slightly better acceleration does get me through to second, and it does the same for me getting up to first. I think because Tsukuba is one of those tracks where I know the AI will put up more of a fight. That's partly why I chose not to remove my tuning, simply because I was wanting to make sure that I had enough tuning in reserve just to make absolutely sure I would pull this off. And for the moment at least, we look to be doing just that. And I think I've now separated myself pretty much well clear of the Gen 5 Golf now. I highly doubt, barring any mistakes of course, I am going to lose the lead at this point, because I've now got 2 seconds in hand. And considering how third gear looks to pretty much be the optimal gear to use, it's helping me gain more time. Which at this point is what I want. Hopefully without running wide too many times, if that makes sense. So, through the hairpin we go for the last time, and it seems as though the rest of the field has pretty much fallen into place. I know it kind of sucks to say that the Polo only has 3 colours to choose from, but I just wanted to use the Polo simply because, well, I drive a Polo. And also because I technically own it. And the Polo, after starting on pole, has now fallen back to 5th. So suffice to say, without tuning, the Polo was pretty much a dog in terms of its overall pace, basically. Anyway, 2 races down, 3 to go. Okay. When that Gen 5 GTI is out in clean air, it is a fucking bullet, and there is no way I can stop it. However, with grippier tyres, and possibly some weight reduction, I might have a better shot of stopping him, so that's what I'm going to do. And this thing is a little heavy, so I should probably shed a few pounds off whilst I'm at it. And do I really need the racing brakes? I don't think I do. Doesn't really provide me with much. Let's see. Nah, it's not worth it. I'm not gonna spend that much. Okay, this time the Gen 5 is not as far up front as he was before, because he was pretty much on pole position before, and well, if I'm being honest, when that Gen 5 GTI is out front, it's basically a bullet, but when it's in the mid-pack, and it's among the dirty air, it is not Mr. Invincible, like it was in that first run. And I did also take some weight off the car because, well, I figured if I was actually going to be competitive in this race, then there were 2 things I would need to make sure. Number 1, I needed to make sure that the Gen 5 Golf GTI was not on pole. Because when it is on pole, yeah, good luck trying to beat him, basically. But if he's not on pole, then I might just be in with a shout. Although the one thing that does annoy me is the fact that I had to spend another 7 grand just to make it so this car would actually win. And this time I am going to brake for that corner because I cannot run flat. Through that left-hander with these understeery machines. So it's me up front with the Lupo. I can see why without tuning this ordinarily would be the worst car to pick, but simply because of car ownership, that is why I chose to buy this car and see if I could win with it. Plus, I think because midfield is probably going to end up being another track where the AI will be fast as well, at least with the reverse course. That was my main excuse for doing the extra tuning. And yes, it also means I will have to do some extra grinding to get some additional money. Preferably 1.2 million at the least. So I have got some money heading into the enduro races. And because the Golf GTI is not up front, he is not absolutely blitzing the opposition like he was before. Which in a way makes me relieved. Because that is what I need to be. A little bit annoyed to say that I had to do some extra tuning just to get it out the way, but you know what? I don't give a fuck anymore. As long as I get these godforsaken one makes out the way, we've pretty much cleared most of the game. As the pollen still continues to try and kill my voice and practically leak my nose to death. Okay. The Gen 5 GTI is on the back row with me, which means I should be good for this. And I can also switch back to the mediums because, well, they helped me to dominate Opera Paris before. But since we're now under grid start formations, for this race anyway, I should be in a good spot. I hope. But we'll see how we go. I hope we've got everything we need, as I do shift up into second gear to minimise wheel spin. And already the Golf GTI starts making his moves. Well, the Gen 5 Golf GTI that is, as I'm already around the first gen Golf and the Polo, it would seem. Now around the Gen 4 GTI we go, as I almost get forced into the weeds. But I do manage to at least work my way up to first. And now all I have to do is just stay there. You know, I could have used the Gen 5 Golf and basically cheesed through this whole thing, but to be honest, I think that would have been what would have made it boring. And of course, if you know me, I like to make interesting decisions over boring decisions. And I think it's fair to say with this weight reduction upgrade, my car has definitely tapped into something it didn't have before. And it only has a top speed of somewhere in the 120s. Kind of had to brake there for a moment or else I would have hit the grass. But nonetheless, doesn't affect my lead too much because I have a sizable gap up front, and also because the Gen 5 Golf, well, he's pretty much in a class of his own like I am, basically. To be honest, I was really hoping that, all things considered, I was not going to have a blemish. on the remaining one makes, but you know what? As long as I just get it finished, by this day at least, then personally, I don't give a fuck anymore. Because I've got through most of the game, and I've also got plenty of video editing and uploading to do afterwards. That's pretty much all I wanted to do. Really wasn't wanting to do any mid-event tuning, but I will say the benefits are clear as day. And I think it's fair to say that had I not put on that tuning, this Polo would have been an awful car, from what I can see. But anyway, let's get our replay saved, and then we can just finish off at Deep Forest, knowing that we won't have to do this again afterwards. Can we finish this without any further dramas? I certainly hope so. But before we do anything else, let's just head to Deep Forest. And once again, with the Lupo starting on pole position, I am pretty convinced in saying we've got a pretty good shot of winning this one without too many issues. The only thing I'm really doing is just taking off the racing chip, because I don't really need it for this, I don't think. I mean, the turbo has been doing most of the talking for me anyway, so I think we should be good, hopefully. Because after this, we won't have to do any more one-make races. And then it will just be the endurance races and the Formula GT World Championship, which will be the only things we have left in terms of things to beat in this game. But other than that, at least, we've already done pretty well in a short amount of time to succeed in beating over a third of this game. Which, if we're being thoroughly honest, is pretty much what I've been aiming to do since I started this game in October 2024. I've more or less been aiming to try and see if I can get past the 90% marker. And I think it's fair to say that we are definitely going to achieve that, from what looks to be a pretty concrete way of ending off the one makes. With the exception of Opera Paris, all of these other tracks have favoured me rather kindly, by comparison. In other words, they've treated me well, with me not having to deal with the Mark V Golf starting at the very front most of the time. Oh, come on. I was totally steering right. Well, at least it doesn't matter in terms of any blemishes, because the Gen 5 Golf is behind me, and that's all I care about. And also because I don't have to worry about anything else in the 1MIGs afterwards. I think if I remember, this should be the last one I have to do in terms of the 1MIGs. Then after that it's just the endurance events, and then there is the Formula GT Championship that will come right before the very end. But either way, 4 out of 5 races, I won easily. The only blemish was how much I struggled at Opera Paris before doing the tyres and the weight reduction, but everything else, I think we're good. And before we get on with the endurance events, yes, I will need to do some grinding. And just to check one more time that I have a replay saved, because I do tend to forget these things sometimes. Okay, that replay is saved. And now we are gonna go and get on with obtaining our prize car, as the Lupo GTI finishes 3rd ahead of the Mark 1 Golf, then the Mark 4 Golf was 5th, and at the back it was the other Polo. Moving on before my voice dies. And our final 1MIG event prize we get is, of course, the 1st generation Golf GTI. Probably should have suspected that. Even though I technically did, because, well, I have done all these events before, so I do have the experience. But anyway, that's all the 1MIG events now done, I think, from what I recall. And ultimately, we have come a long, long way from where we began with the 1MIGs, as we've now reached 94.5% completion. And my win ratio is back up to 85.8%, but in total, the 1MIG events were worth 37.2% of this game overall. And to that I can say, holy shit, that is a lot of progress. In fact, I think it's more than a lot. But whatever, it's done. We finished all the events, and we got all the cars we needed to win. With the Mark 1 Volkswagen Golf being the final prize we get from the 1MIGs. And now, I'm going to take a break before we get on with the endurance events, and also catch up with some more hit and run playthrough things. But there we go. The 1MIG events are now done, and next time we will be making a start with the endurance events. Coming next time on Gran Turismo 4. See you then.